Thanks, Deb. Got Hound of the Baskervilles, the Witcher series, Things in Jars. You Should See Me in a Crown. Annie, is that the one you were telling me about yesterday or a couple days ago?
Yes, I'm going to suggest it as soon as I can get to the form.
It's up. It's up. Educative, that's one of my favorites too. Anybody else? We'll give just another 10 seconds. Anybody's? So it looks like there's 16 people in here. I don't know if everybody's going to do that. So I always like to start with something positive and something upbeat related to what we're doing. That social emotional learning is so important to what we do as educators, and it's good to model that. Anyhow, so we are here today to talk about High School Battle of the Books. We're going to spend some time talking about what it is, if you're not familiar with it, what it is, what it's going to look like, some of the changes that are occurring, being in the remote environment that we're in. And we'll also have some time for some questions. So it's not going to be a really long session unless you have a lot of questions. So we're going to go ahead and, first of all, ask, who do I have here? How many of you, are they able to raise their hands here? Can they do that in Google Meet? How many of you have done Battle of the Books before, whether with high school, elementary, middle? I can't see everybody. I'm seeing lots of hands. So lots of familiarity with Battle of the Books. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time then on what it is. But we're going to just kind of skim over that if I can get it to go. So, you know, it's quiz bowl type competition. The books in high school, they're reading from a list of 15 books. There are 2 teams of 6. They take turns. You know how it does. Anybody not understand how that competition, how the Battle of the Books competition? The high school works very much like the elementary and middle. All right, nobody's putting in the chat that they're not familiar with that. I want to move on if you're not. All right, so the purpose, you know, is to encourage all high school students to continue to enjoy reading. If you're new to high school, or if you've been in high school, you know, or you're learning that high schoolers, they're reading, their drive to just read for enjoyment really goes down. The AP kids who are readers are reading so much AP stuff, they don't seem to have time. And those ones who haven't been strong readers or haven't really loved reading, it just really dies off in high school. Circulation plummets, just becomes more challenging. But through that competition, we want to encourage kids to improve their reading, change their choices, kind of mature those choices in what they're reading and broaden their knowledge base. So that's why we always bring in like some nonfiction text. And then to expose students to good literature. With the high school list, we always try to choose books that are very current. We've not recycled any books at this point. We've not been at this next year coming will be our first year that we would be able to recycle books, and we're not 100% sure that we're going to do that. But the primary goal is to read, not necessarily to win. And I think that would be echoed in the middle and the elementary. You want kids to read. You want them to learn to love reading and to read outside of what they might not normally read. All right, so our 2020-2021 list, if you haven't seen it, I'm absolutely proud of the list that the committee has come up with. There were some questions about the diversity in some of the lists, and I did an audit on this list, a diversity audit on this list. And I was like, wow, even though I knew it was diverse, I didn't know it was that diverse. So there are only on this list like 3 white characters, 3 white authors. Like, it's such a diverse, we have African American, Hispanic, we have Native American, we have Darius the Great, where's he from? Iranian. So we've got all kinds of diversity in there. We've got LGBTQ represented in there. So the committee has done an outstanding job of developing this list that hits all kinds of areas. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of the High School Battle of the Books Committee over the last few years since we started with HBOB at NCSLMA, is that we've worked very hard to create a very diverse list of books. And this one is every year I think it can't get any better, it can't get any better, and they just topped it out. I can't take any credit for it. It is all the committee. So that's our list this year. So the competition, the manual is available online at www.ncslma.org. You're going to click Inside NCSLMA Book Programs and then HBOB will take you to that. Any interested districts can participate. The organizer of the district can be somebody on the team, but that person can't have access to the question. I know there are some districts that might only have 2 or 3 high schools, and the district person's like, I'm not doing that. You'll have to do it yourself. That's fine. If you're in a district of only 1 high school and you're going to plan something with a neighboring district, you can organize something between yourself. You just can't have access to the questions. And ethically, we all understand why that's important. All right, so virtual competitions. So the committee has met and discussed a lot on the elementary, middle, and high level. We've all talked about that. So virtual competitions are allowed, and there are instructions in the manual or guidelines in the manual for the virtual competitions. I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights of those virtual competitions. There has to be one main virtual base room for officials. The schools have to have someone on site, so you're going to have like your on-site people, a timekeeper, and a judge. Your officials can choose to extend for 5 to 10 seconds based on need, but it has to be consistent. So you can't say, well, this team's internet's lagging, so we're going to give them 10 seconds, but this team B over here, theirs isn't lagging, so they don't get the 10 seconds. So you have to be consistent, and that just makes sense. That's fair play. If you're going to give everybody 30 seconds, then give everybody 30 seconds and not just individual teams. There is an agreement form that has to be filled out by each team, by each coach, just stating that they have explained the virtual rules to their team, and that can be scanned in and sent to the chairs, the co-chairs. We'll have a place. I guess we need to find a place for them to scan and submit that. But there is more information. It's in Appendix J of the manual. These will be interesting to see how districts handle that. All right, so the questions. So district and regional competition questions will be provided by NCSLMA again this year. There is a request through the NCSLMA website link. It's already there for districts. District requests are due by January 15th. You need to make sure that those requests get put in before then, so that our person who is organizing the questions has time to get those put together before they're delivered. All right, school requirements. Have to be a full-time student, 9th through 12th grade. The school must have a media center that is staffed by a licensed 076 at least 20 hours a week. There's a little bit of leeway. The media coordinator does not have to be the coach, but you do have to have a media coordinator in there, although I may need to question that actually. Deb?
Yep.
That changed, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It has to be staffed. The coach has to be a certified employee of the school, and the media center has to be open 50% of the time with a licensed person in charge of it.
Doesn't have to be an SLMC.
Correct.
I apologize that I missed that update when I was doing this. And schools can send one team of up to 12 students for the high school. There is some exceptions when it comes to early and middle colleges. There is some discussion too about virtual schools and what that would look like, and I don't think that we are at a point to make a stand on that one way or the other. I think as our committees need to get together and talk. But for early and middle
Karen, can I interrupt? To be consistent in both EBOB and MBOB, I told them that the districts would be making that decision for their own districts.
Gotcha.
Other than the if a virtual school is extant and has its own official library space, that
Gotcha.
regarding virtual schools tied to physical schools, that has to be a district decision. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Please, you have more updated information and about some of this stuff than I do. So did you understand what she was saying? Is that districts would make their decisions for the virtual school, Some virtual schools are still, like in Winston-Salem, the virtual schools are tied to their home schools. So the kids are like assigned, it's more like considered a program rather than a completely separate school. Some districts, it's a completely separate school of its own. It has its own, LEA number. It has its own entity. So you run into the issue of whether it meets the criteria of a library. So that's where the discussion comes from. For early and middle colleges, so there are a lot of early and middle colleges around the state. If they operate on a college campus, they are exempt from that requirement of having a media center and the SLMC, which is not a requirement. But the committee approval will begin when the regional competitions are in place. And this is where I pulled an old one. I'm so sorry. You may have a teacher who serves as the coach. The teacher does have to be certified, and the coach must be a member of NCSLMA. Participating early and middle college students, they have to have access to the college or university library. So that means they need to be able to check out from that library. They may not have a librarian that's theirs, but they have to be able to check out materials from that library. Deb, is there any questions? I'm looking.
Yes, I'm sorry. The question was, does the virtual school being able to participate, is that a district or a regional? I think that means as a team competing in HBOB, they have to have the blessing, so to speak, for the district. Do you want to expand on that, Karen? It is a topic that is being explored, but it is a district level. If you are not a district as big as, say, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools and its county schools, they would make that decision. Would you agree, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did that answer your question, Joanna?
Yeah, I think so. It's really not all that relevant for me. We only have one high school in our district, but we will be having a virtual school that's part of our high school. But we would probably just be putting together one team. So that would be okay, right? To compete at regionals.
As long as it's approved by your district, that students from that virtual school can participate in clubs in physical schools.
Okay, and we are only one high school. I think this came up last year too, but we wouldn't have a regional competition then, is that correct? Or do we?
So we're still, as a committee, exploring the regional competitions and what that could possibly look like.
Joe, I'm the only one in Davidson County that does too. So we may be able to hook up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the only high school in Davidson County that participates.
Yeah, and I actually had a team that I was excited about last year, and then of course we didn't do anything. It's so sad, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a team together this year, but I'm going to try.
But let's hook up because we're in the same county, just different districts. But that would at least get us together a little bit.
Yep.
Absolutely. So we're still exploring that. I hope to. I know as far as where we are, our high schools will be the last ones to open when everything starts opening. So the earliest our high schools will open will be January, and we don't know what that'll look like at this point. And I think you're going to see very, differing options for that across the state of what that looks like. So our committee just met earlier this week, and we are going to reconvene and discuss what regional competitions could look like. And with that said, and I was going to get to that in just a few minutes, we would need people to organize those events. Because I know like some of the people that organize them that were organizing them last year may or may not be willing to handle or organize a virtual competition. I don't foresee us being able to do a face-to-face competition. I don't see that happening. Deb, am I correct on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have to follow the rules that the governor has for the state. It is interpreted by all of the districts. So if we are doing high school athletic competitions, some districts may allow it, but we are not at this time planning anything except for hopefully by May, a state competition for HSBOB. Now, regional for HSBOB is being looked at seriously for a virtual competition. Elementary school is not even going to pursue regional. They're going to stay with doing district level. Did I answer that correct? The answer of Joanna is the timeline on the website. Yes, it is. It's a part of the manual. It's also part of Welcome to the 2020-2021 competition year, which is at the landing page for book programs.
Something, while we're talking about the manual, something that I noticed when I first went searching to see if we were going to have the virtual thing, I finally read somewhere on the site where it said that there was an Appendix J and K, I think it was, that had all the virtual stuff. But when I went to the manual at least on the high school site, the manual part, I had scanned through the table of contents and there was no mention. It ended at I. So whoever is doing that manual may want to add in the Appendix J and K on that table of contents so that they know it's in there.
That's a good point. I'll take care of that. So you're having access denied to what?
Oh, I'm trying to find the compliance form and where I'm being told to look and stuff. I'm not finding it at all.
All
Yeah,
right.
same. I went to the page and can find where it says the form is, but the form isn't attached.
In my account, I'm logged in. My membership's always current, and it's not there. So I'm not sure if there's a dead link or if we need to look at that.
Pardon the dog. Sorry, but I'll go in and look at that right now.
Thanks, Deb.
I just put the link in the chat if you want to go straight to the page. It says compliance form, but then there's nothing next to it.
Mine, when I click on that link that's in the chat, it says access denied. And I'm logged into my admin account.
Yeah. So one of the things that'll have to happen, Karen, is that we'll have to link from the compliance link all the way to the part in the event. Again, pardon the dog. She's been quiet all day.
All right, so we'll get to working on that. Anyhow, I'm not going to read through this. This just gives you one that's a little bit of a tweak from the main manual is we are asking for high school book list recommendations. We're going to close that on January 1st to give us time to organize and get prepared for our meetings to start doing that. So if you have requests, that is one little tweak that we're going to ask for. All right, so we've kind of talked about this, working on that possibility for the regionals. If you know of anybody that would be willing to organize a virtual competition, please let us know. We are not going to pursue a state competition this year. Last year, we were going to have one, but we feel like it would have been our first one, and we feel like this year, with the challenges that we're facing, that a state competition is not something that we as a committee wanted to tackle this year, that we would tackle it next year. We really want to do a state competition. We just felt like this wasn't the year to do it for the first time. All right, Any questions? People have been asking questions. Annie, do you see that Sarah Levin is doing she wants to do the virtual competition for Region 2? Sarah, will you send me your information in email? And we'll get you, and while we're here, Annie Burge, did I say your last name right, Annie? Okay. Annie Burge and Jess Barreps, who's not here today, are going to be co-chair elects this year with me. So then at the end of this year, they will take over as co-chairs, and I'm going to step back, which is probably really great. It's really good for me because I've got a lot on me. So I'm super excited that both very capable women. I'm excited about working with them this year and getting the book list for next year. So it's going to be great, and very, very, very thankful that they have agreed to do this for us. So any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was filling out the registration form. I was able to get to it through the link, but did you say there's not going to be a state competition this year?
We will not do a state competition this year.
So if Bree and I don't link up, then that would be the only competition that we could have. Is that the deal?
Possibly.
Okay.
But you couldn't have a state competition if we didn't have regional competition.
Say that again?
You can't do a state competition unless you have the regional competitions. So we're still working on the regional competitions. And so last year was supposed to be our first year for state, and it didn't happen. And our committee just felt like to tackle a state competition for the first time this year was a little too much. So we wanted to do it next year when everybody's back face to face, a little stronger.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? So we did talk about this. We are taking suggestions for the 2021-22 list, if you can believe it.
Real quick, Christy asked if a Google Doc of some sort sheet could be started with the librarians who are planning to have a team and might want to do a virtual, even a mini little competition. So
that's a good idea. We can make that happen.
I'm not sure if Bree or Deb Christensen saw my note, but those of us who have admin rights to the website, if you're in admin view, you cannot access the compliance form. But if you switch to public view, you can get there. It's just a quirk.
Thank you, Deb. That's
You're most
probably what it was.
Well, when I got the 403, I thought that's not right. So, okay. So Karen, I'll double check everything, but I think we're good. Okay.
Okay. So Sarah, you're saying you could do past Region 2. That's, here's the beauty of virtual. You've got Watauga and down to Manio, that Boone to Manio. You could be competing against each other just as well as I can from the school across the street.
exactly.
So that's the beauty of it. And I know our Region 7 and 8, because they're so small up in the mountains, that they did a combined regional last year. Really, for the last 2 years, they've done a combined regional. So we can work something out. I do like the idea. So Anne, let's talk about that next time you and Jess and I meet, and go ahead and get that put together and start adding that. Start promoting that. I really like that idea. That's a great idea. All right. Any other questions? And Jessica, don't have NCSLMA email address. Those will be up on the website soon.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. But you can email them as well as me.
I need a clarification question.
Sure.
Okay. my county has a early college high school and then a traditional high school. Okay. The early college high school is in Plymouth with me, or they're in Roper, I'm in Plymouth. They're doing early college through Beaufort Community College. Right now, everybody's virtual, even the kids that are, on doing Beaufort also. They do not have a library at the early college at all. I do have a library at my school. I am the librarian. I unfortunately have a hard time getting enough kids to have a competition. Is it okay if the two of us went together? And I mean, they don't have a librarian. That's the part that I'm stuck at.
So the early college, based on what the guidelines are now in the manual, the early college wouldn't qualify if they don't have access to a library. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, unless they come up to my school, they don't have access to a library.
Okay, so then I am very comfortable with those students participating with your school.
Okay.
Would be a district, that you would admit that and the committee would approve that, but I'm very comfortable with that because I'm all about getting kids active reading. And if you need to pull from those students, because they would participate in your school for sports and everything, wouldn't they?
Yes, they do participate
Right.
in sports.
Falls under that. So they could, yeah, absolutely be part of your team.
Okay, because there was some, originally we were thinking no, and then when you said the district could approve, then I thought, wait a minute, maybe this will work out after all. So now you said that the committee had to approve it. How do I go about doing that?
Just send us an email. I don't see there'll be a problem.
Okay.
Just run it by it. Like, basically the way it goes down is, hey, here's the situation. Does anybody have, a reason why this can't be?
Okay.
And prove to other people in that same situation. That's just part of the guidelines within the manual that it just goes. I mean, it's a quick approval.
Okay.
I see Annie nodding, like, yeah, it's going to go through. It's just that's not usually an issue.
Okay, that is awesome sauce. Thank you so much.
Karen, you have a volunteer to join the committee, Sarah Levin.
From Region 2 as well. So, well, wait, did you put that in your email?
I'm sending a follow-up email now.
Does anybody else have any more questions or anything they want to share?
Just out of curiosity, from other schools in my district at other levels, are they having state competitions this year or not?
Just the middle school. Elementary, well, Deb, you might be more equipped to answer this than I can.
Elementary is stopping at district this year. Middle has hopes to have their state competition. It's budgeted and in the thoughts for if things open up. So they're actively looking at doing their regionals with that aim. There's no guarantees though, but elementary stops at district.
District or regional?
District. They're not pursuing regional.
Okay.
They are doing a flip-flop of their group. Stacy Hersey's going to become the book programs director, so she's leaving that behind and new people are taking over, and they just did not want to take that on at this time. So they're staying at the district level. Plus, their timeline is different. They give themselves a little bit longer because they don't have a state competition. So they give themselves a little longer to get everything done at district level.
So like in my district where we only have a primary and elementary, a middle and a high, then there would really be no point. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Yep. We only have one elementary school in our district.
Yes.
Deb, she's saying that there's no other elementary schools to compete with in her district, and the regional is their first time that they compete.
Gotcha. So in that case, if that case, what I would recommend if they really want to do this and they want to compete, I would suggest they do a Skyping in competition against people in other districts and their peers. We did this for 22 years now. I've worked doing competitions outside of HSBOB. We did it for like 10 years just because it was fun. We made the arrangements and got together. So if they want to pursue it, they can go ahead, but it's not for a competition goal. It's just for them to reaffirm what they've done.
Okay.
I would say that for the high schools as well, is to compete. I know when I was a media coordinator in Guilford County, we would do like scrimmage matches, and we would meet Saturdays at a neutral location, and we'd have 3 or 4 schools show up, and the kids just love it. They just want to get together and compete, and it doesn't have to be a formal competition. Now, I will say that if it's just 1 or 2, it's not a district or a regional competition, then NCSLMA is not going to provide questions for that. So you're going to need to pull your questions from one of those book sharing. Is it My Bob Team? And then what's the other one?
Battle Quest, the Battle Questions. Yeah, and there's also, I think it's somebody up in the Boone area who requires people to write questions, and they have made that public that you can use, but I would always ask them.
Yep, the high school, yeah, they do that for their students too. They make the students write questions.
So how do we, just out of curiosity, how are questions for the regional competitions or state competitions, if we were having them, how are they done?
So for the high school, our committee members have been reading the books since last March, since it was chosen, and writing questions. So we've got until like mid October, end of October, to turn those questions in, and then the questions are edited and sorted, and then sent out to the districts and regionals.
Okay.
We follow that same procedure at the elementary level. Our committee is the ones that write the questions, and the middle school does that as well. And we all review them and we all edit them for clarity and before they're sent out.
And you just have to trust that people are ethical. They're not going to have access to all 15 books. They'll have access to one book set of questions. Very few people have access to all of the questions.
And the people who do, there is somebody who is kind enough to volunteer to meld them and massage them and send them out for all 3 levels, so it's separate, which, bless their soul.
And that's a job. Let me tell you, that is a job. So, all right. So to close up, tell me what your favorite high school, if you've read any of them, what your favorite high school Battle of the Books book is off of this year's list. Or if you haven't read them from this year's list, one from last year.
Educated.
Somebody was speaking. Who was that? Oh, some people are so Educated. A couple of Educated.
I have to get the list again. Hang on. I've read a lot of them.
The link to the list on the website for last year takes me back to my Google Drive.
Oh. Okay, I need to fix that then. I just did that. Yes, I just did that because it disappeared. I'm going to share the list, and then we're going to close up this year.
I enjoyed Washington Black.
Oh, I haven't read that one yet.
And Downstairs Girl. I thought that was interesting.
That's another one I haven't read yet. I loved Darius the Great Is Not Okay, although I stayed on the edge of tears just about the entire time.
They both die at the end. That one got me at the very end.
That was one that I stayed on the edge of tears too. I really enjoyed With the Fire on High as well.
Mhm.
I love Cersei. That was just amazing. I love that book.
It was so different.
Hmm.
It was so very different. It was not a genre that, this is why I love Battle of the Books, because it's not a genre that I would have chosen for myself. I tend to lean towards the historical fiction and maybe some mysteries, but like that kind of book. And I'm like you, I think somebody put that they didn't realize how invested they were until the end. That's how I was. Because there were times when I was kind of, this is not something like, where's it going? But then it was like all came together. It was a beautiful story, very beautiful story.
I think it was more of a, do I like the character? Do I not like the character? Where's she going with this? And then I loved her.
Yeah.
I haven't read that one yet because that's a genre that I wouldn't normally choose either. So that was the thing. But now the one from last year that really surprised me, because I thought for sure that I would absolutely hate it, and it ended up being one of my favorites, was, now I can't remember the name, Dread Nation. I thought, zombies? You gotta be kidding me. But I loved Justina Ireland's such tongue-in-cheek humor. Oh my goodness, I could just visualize it. I loved her writing. I loved her style. So yeah, that was a surprise.
Anyone else want to share? All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys. Thank you for coming. Annie and Jess and I are here to kind of help facilitate this. I'm so glad to have help again this year. And we're going to do our best for the regionals, and I look forward to seeing these competitions happen.
In some way or another, something will happen.
If you've got a great idea for how you're doing your virtual competitions in your district, let us know. It would be great to compile some of the ways that they have been handled to give ideas to everybody. So, thanks again.
Thanks everyone for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Hey, Karen, will you hang for a minute?
I will.
We could go ahead and stop recording this.